Yeah, so a very warm welcome, everyone. And we have two new seekers with us today. Till and Lotus have joined in also. So welcome to you also, both of you. So we are on week 4 of prayers and meditations by the Mother, batch 7. And we have two prayers, Feb 8, 1914 and Feb 9, 1914. So as always, we'll just start with the first prayer, February 8, 1914. And it would be nice if anyone who wants to share reflections first may also read the prayer, and then one by one we can unmute and share our reflections on this prayer. Yeah, so anyone who feels ready to read the prayer first and then share their reflections. Yeah, kindly unmute and please go ahead.
Monica, I will read Jishnu here.
Yes, please. Jishnu.
Okay. Prayer of February 8, 1914. O Lord, sweet Master of love, Thou who bringest us out of the darkness to awaken us to consciousness, who deliverest us from suffering, to make us commune within Thy eternal peace. Every morning my aspiration soars ardently towards Thee, and I implore that my being, integrally awake to Thy knowledge, may now live only by Thee, in Thee, for Thee. I implore that more and more perfectly identified with Thee, I may now be only Thyself manifested in word and act. I implore that all those who come to us, all those who are in contact with us, may awaken to the full knowledge of Thy divine presence, Thy sovereign law, and let themselves be definitively transformed by it. I implore that all men upon this earth, in spite of their bitter suffering, may feel dawning in it the sublime consolation of Thy light and love, and the marvellous comfort of Thy peace. I implore that every substance impregnated more and more by Thy sovereign forces may put up an ever diminishing resistance of blind ignorance against Thee, and that triumphing over the darkness, Thou mayst transfigure definitively and integrally this universe of strife and anguish into a universe of harmony and peace, so that Thy law may be fulfilled.
So would you like to go ahead and share reflections, Jishnuji?
So, about reflections, like other sessions or the sessions we had previously, the first thing what strikes me is the beauty and the precise way how she formulated the prayer. I always find, and I think we don't speak much about it, but Mother's language is very, very precise. And she fused preciseness with beauty. When I look into her prayers, that is how I feel exactly, that she is precise, exact, as well as beautiful. And here she says, just looking from my notes, that another thing is she always calls the divine as the sweet master, as we'll see. More than power, more than anything else, any other aspect, it is the sweetness of the divine which appeals to her. So, sweet master, you who brings us out of darkness to awaken us. And this is something I felt very, very important, that we always want to live in the comfort of our darkness. We want to live in the comfort of our, what we call nowadays, comfort zone. We want to live in the limited comfort zone, and the divine takes us out takes us out of the darkness to awaken us, to deliver us from suffering. at times, and Monica ji, since you do so many sessions, you know that, and in all the others, that at times we love our suffering. We are attached to our suffering, and we do not want to change because somehow we are in that loop of suffering. And the divine, at times those painful instances as well as happy instances, which we feel, which we do not realize. That is how the divine is taking us out of this darkness to awaken in us. And the next thing is, by aspiration rises to thee. This is something what I feel. Let me be thyself manifested in word and action. That is, she is speaking of the absolute sincerity. When somebody asked Mother that what sincerity is, she said to be absolutely what? To be that which the absolutely the divine wants you to be. And here she has spoken that let me manifest you both in word and action. That it's be absolutely sincere, be a perfect instrument of the divine. I implore thee that all those who come to us, all those who are in contact with us, may awaken to the full knowledge of divine presence. That is, and not only her, in the previous prayers also we see that she, even these prayers are written before she became or she was known as the Divine Mother. She's always praying for herself, for the world, for the other sentient beings who are not even aware of the divine. She's praying for everyone. And here also we see that, and this is before she met Sri Aurobindo, February 1914. And so she is speaking that even others, that not only us, but whoever who comes, all the other people who comes in contact with us, they may also be awakened to the full knowledge of the divine presence. It is important because we are ignorant. People who are around us are often ignorant. They are not aware of the divine presence. And that is why so much doubt, confusion, division. And she is saying, if in a later conversation, I saw that Mother is saying that all of you have falsehood, all of you have different parts of you. But when you come and stand in front of us, I see what your soul or the psychic being wants to be. I directly cut through all this and see your psychic being, what it wants to be. And it is always my effort to bring that out in you. And this is something which she is speaking in 1950s or 1960s, which is exactly 50 years later, probably 50 to 60 years later. But here she is, in 1914, she is formulating that aspiration that people who come in contact with us, let the truth in them come out. Let they realize what the truth is, what the truth of their being. Thy sovereign law, and let themselves definitively transform by it. So they may be aware of their divine presence. And this is very important, like in Vedanta or in Hindu myths, scriptures also, they say that we feel we are powerless because we don't know who we are. There are hidden elements in us, there are hidden powers in us, but we are not aware of them. And once we become aware of them, we also become powerful. We also become what we are, what we truly are. But we are not aware of that divine presence, the sovereign law of goodness, kindness, the power, anything good which is there, which is in us, and let themselves definitively transform by it. Once we are aware of this presence, when we become conscious of this presence, it slowly grows like a growing fire. It grows. It takes time, we all know, and that is why the sadhana or the path, tapasa, all the methods practice are. But once this fire is kindled in a human being, it slowly grows, and over life and lifetimes, one get transformed. I implore that all men upon earth, note the word all men upon earth, in spite of their bitter suffering, may feel dawning in its sublime consolation of thy light and love. That people who have no hope, people who have become bitter, she is specific word, bitter suffering, even they should feel that the dawning of and the dawn means there is a thing of hope, it's a thing of peace, it's a new beginning. Dawning of the sublime consolation of thy light and love, and the marvelous comfort of thy peace. The beautiful comfort. When we are peaceful, we feel calm, we feel rested, we feel that everything is as it should be. And that feeling gives the ultimate security. I implore that every substance impregnated more and more by thy sovereign forces may put up an ever diminishing resistance of blind ignorance against thee. And that is what she means is, like all of us, we are aware of the truth. We are aware of what we should do, but we are not doing it. And why we are not doing it is because our attachment to personal preferences, personal ego, which means we are being a resistant in the path of the divine, in the path of larger plan, in the larger plan of the universe. We are being a resistant. We are being resistant. We are creating obstacles because of our personal. So as we change the aim of our life, we become less and less resistant. We surrender ourselves, and that is why that word surrender is so important. We surrender and be instruments of the divine. Blind ignorance against thee and triumphing over the darkness. Once we do that, that is, once we surrender ourselves for the divine and work for him, what happens is we triumph. What is the executive action is we triumph over darkness so that the divine may transfigure definitively and integrally this universe of strife and anguish, which is the universe which we see even today from 1914 even 2021. If we look across, we just see strife and anguish. But we have seen, if we think, the number of wars have reduced, we have progressed. So basically we are making progress, maybe minuscule, but we are making progress. And that's because of the supramental action upon earth, because of various heavenly beings like Mother Shravin and others who have come on this earth and made their effort to change from a universe of anguish and strife to a universe of harmony and peace, so that thy law, that is the divine law, may be fulfilled upon this earth.
Yeah, thank you so much for the beautiful reflection, Jishnuji. Thank you. I'm sure, I think you touched upon many crucial points. I'm sure we'll take them up again, maybe in other sharings also. So anyone who wants to go next, anything that resonated deeply with you, any particular few lines or whatever you want to share, maybe any personal reflection. Yeah, please go ahead. Chitraji, you wanted to go? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Monica. Yes. Jishnu explained line by line. It is very beautiful. Yeah. But yeah, when I read this prayer, no, I feel this prayer is for the universe by the Mother, Divine Mother. Yes. I felt like that. And also every time when I read such prayers, no, I used to address like this, oh Lord, sweet master, not only sweet master and also mother of love. I will add those lines also, sweet master and mother of love. So such prayers are like that. And also this line, no, thou who bringest us out of darkness to awaken us to consciousness, who deliverest us from suffering, to make us commune within thy eternal peace. Yes, I feel this must be our constant prayer, actually, and to deliver us from the darkness. And also in the next line, no, and I implore that my being integrally awake to thy knowledge. Every morning my aspiration soars. Regarding this, actually, I want to share one thing. I used to watch a talk from a Ramana Maharishi devotee in Tamil, actually. He used to tell always, once you realize your soul, after that, even though there are no rituals to follow, nothing particular, you have to follow the discipline and all, once you cross that border and realize the soul. But every morning you have to get up from the bed and pray to divine or to your guru. I should not forget the teachings, and I should be in the path always, should not drift from the path. So when I read these lines in the prayers of meditations by Mother here, also every morning my aspiration soars ardently towards thee, and I implore that my being integrally awake to thy knowledge may now live only by thee, in thee, for thee. Yes, I found that beautiful similarity between those things actually. Yeah, that struck me a lot. And another thing, it's yeah, and she said no, that it should be manifested in word and act. Which line it is? I implore that all men, in spite of their bitter suffering, manifested in word and act. That line struck me actually, because maybe we through words I can easily say I am the follower of the path and seeker in the path, but in act, to follow it, it is very essential, I feel. That's why Mother really, she wrote down that line, manifested in word and act. I felt it is very important actually. And also living the truth, I implore that all those who come to us and all who are in contact with us may awaken to the full knowledge of thy divine presence. Yeah, when you live only, you can your influence will fall upon those persons around you, or those circumstances will change. But I feel like that if it is not there, it is it is my failure actually. Really, I feel it is a lack of my following, or sincerity is not there in me. Because of that only, others can't follow that, or others can't be influenced. Yes, that I felt. Yeah. And next few lines are very beautiful lines, yeah, specifically pointing out Mother's earthly mission. It is, these lines are actually I implore upon, in spite of their bitter suffering, may feel dawning in it the sublime consolation of thy light and love, and the marvelous comfort of thy peace. Yeah, this and all Divine Mother's role, really. I implore that every substance impregnated more and more by thy sovereign forces may put up an ever diminishing resistance of blinding. This I need some clarity, Monica, actually. Ever diminishing resistance of blind ignorance against thee. And that triumphing over all darkness, thou mayest transfigure definitively and integrally this universe of strife. Yes, this I understood. Yeah, this is Mother's really, her avataric mission is that actually, to transfigure everyone and everything, the whole universe, so that thy law may be fulfilled. It is a beautiful ending, as usual. Yeah, this is my take, Monica.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Yes. I think one thing on what you were sharing, that if people around me are not really good, as you said it in different words. One of the poems, I think someone had shared on the group, there was this line in one of the sonnets by Sri Aurobindo where it said, "My rival's failure is my own disgrace." So you were actually just sharing about something on that it's my own
Yeah.
something is lacking in our
We are
devotion,
lacking
our
in
surrender, and we
yeah.
have to just continue and keep at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a long way to go for each one of us.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So anyone who wants to share next, please unmute and share.
I'm listening, Monica. I'm just listening to the reflections today.
Okay, Shweta, in case you come up, please do unmute and share.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so anyone who wants to go next? Rashmi ji, Luba, Lotus, still anyone who has any reflection to share at this moment? Most welcome.
I don't have a long story because it's very, people know so much to say about it, but I do have a feeling when I read this.
Yeah.
Because Mother is so at service of the divine, and it is so full of promises, and she is so easily consulting the divine. How great can it be indeed to do that? That's the feeling I have.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
And I had one line lightened up, but that is already being used, ever diminishing resistance.
Yes.
Find ignorance against thee, because yeah, it's one of the many eye catches these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To be aware of so much resistance,
Yes.
unknowingly being resistant.
Unknowingly, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So I think the first step then is to just become conscious of our resistance. I think that would be the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll again touch upon that later in a short time. Yeah. Great. So anyone else? I think Rashmi ji, you wanted to share? You have something to say? Yes.
Namaste. My takeaway from this prayer of the Mother is very clear. It sets the agenda of life, actually. May now live only by thee, in thee, for thee. If sincerely I can do that, I think everything will be taken care of. But this itself becomes the goal of my life. Because we are not living by the divine, not in the divine, for the divine. We are living for many other things, for family, for our own glory. And we are living, our life is organized by many forces, not by the divine. We are living in many other things rather than in the divine. So for me, the takeaway is this: I have to constantly live for him or her, live in him and by him. If I do that with all sincerity, then everything will come. That is what my take is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rashmi ji. I think that's enough of a of an aim for a lifetime and many lifetimes to come. Yes.
Yes, it is an agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather, it becomes a mission. Actually, if we create a mission statement like that, it will be like I live for thee, by thee, in thee, every moment of my journey. So that becomes a mission statement. So I take this mission statement.
Yeah, yeah. And it also gives us employment for a long, many lifetimes to come. We have so much to do. Yes.
Yes, it certainly broadens our horizon. We don't have to think of this life simply.
Yeah.
Because it is at every moment we have to do this. And when we are out of that, that mission, then we feel that unease, that I'm not living for her, in her, or by her. We are so that really becomes every moment's affair.
Yes.
So it's a wonderful prayer that gave us the mission of our life.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. I think everything already has been touched upon. And just to share a few things from my side, Mother, in her story of creation, she shares that the journey is actually from ignorance to knowledge, from suffering to bliss, and from falsehood to truth. So one does not have to, we don't have to feel guilty or shameful or feel like a sinner, because each one of us has our own portly, kind of a bag full of mistakes and errors that we have done and committed in this life and also previous ones. But the thing is that the journey is from darkness to light. So we all face that darkness of clinging to our patterns, tendencies, to my thought, my feeling. Again and again we slip into these deep slumber of knowing ourselves, or as I think Jishnuji was saying, just very strongly attaching myself to the thought, feelings, and my own ideas and opinions. So it really helps if we kind of loosen that attachment, so that we are able to create a space between the consciousness that sees a thought, for example. So even a little bit of space, if created, I think that does give a lot of relief to us. And here, Mother says, make us commune with thy eternal peace. So this is the eternal peace which is there 24/7 with us, never away from us. But there is so much of garbage that we get kind of attached to, thinking that it is so important, that we don't recognize the space behind the garbage. So I think that's why we talk about, kind of witnessing the thoughts, because that is the step which comes first. You become aware of breath, or become single pointed, and then you become a witness to thoughts and feelings, so that you create a space between thoughts and feelings and are able to kind of disengage from the heavy flow of thoughts and feelings and know yourself as something other. And that's there, we touch upon that piece. All of us who have practiced, we know that we touch upon that piece in our deepest contemplations. Although it's another pattern, again and again we have these old patterns and we get sucked away in those patterns, like thinking patterns, emotional patterns, and we lose again that kind of the stance as consciousness that we took while we were in contemplation. So we have to remind, because since we are born in forgetfulness, Mother says that we are born in an amnesia. So we are born in a forgetfulness, and hence it's absolutely crucial to keep on reminding. I think Chitraji was sharing something on that so long as we are alive, to maintain this continuity of constant remembrance of our divine origin, which is right here, this consciousness which is making everything perceive, making everything see, know, and feel. So that communion with our own true self is extremely, I think, important to deliver us from suffering. Otherwise, if I'm too much one with the thoughts, feelings, and whatever the story is going on in my head, if I'm one with that, there can be no peace, because no story is a happy story. Each one has its own troubles. But the moment I see myself as the consciousness which is able to be conscious of all the drama and the story in the head, I think there immediately a sense of relief comes, that peace comes. Awake to thy knowledge, implore that my being integrally awake to thy knowledge. It's not that the knowledge is not there. It's not that we don't know. We don't know that we know. Just like Hanuman, when he had to go to Sri Lanka for carrying this ring from Lord Rama to Sita, he had to be reminded that he can fly. It's not that he could not fly, but he had to be reminded that you can fly, so that there's no need to worry. So just like that, we have to remind ourselves that we have all the knowledge, we have all the peace, serenity, goodness, goodwill, all that is there within me. But again and again, it's required to touch upon that by disengaging from the drama and the story in the head. So this loose association with thoughts and feelings, I believe, personally for me, comes to a great rescue, that not to take your thoughts and feelings so seriously, otherwise it makes us suffer. And by suffering, I get to know that I have again gotten attached to something or the other. So suffering can be a beautiful reminder then. And I think you were touching upon each word and act being manifested by that divine presence. The divine presence, the divine consciousness is oozing out of each word and act. And if we look at our present status, each one of us would know that there is a long, long way to go. Because many a times we see thoughts arising in us which are not really beautiful. They're ugly thoughts, and they are still there. And many a times unknowingly we do follow them. So there is a long way to go in each one's journey. And before commenting upon people around us, I think I have to really do the inner work parallelly. Although we can, give a piece of word here and there and discuss it with people who are receptive, but I think it does us no help to keep our focus on people around us and to lose the focus from within, because there's so much to do. There's so much to, kind of sort and organize within. And this is again very beautiful. Mother is saying that whoever gets in touch with us, may he awaken to the full knowledge of thy divine presence. So rejoicing in the goodness of others. If someone has gotten connected with the divine and the goodness is oozing out, and if I rejoice in that goodness rather than becoming competitive and ambitious and whatever goes in the name of ego, I think the moment I rejoice in anyone's goodness, it brings me out of my limited ego cage, if we try it. So if I am becoming maybe hateful and jealous of somebody, and immediately if I recognize it and I send good vibes, that wow, that person is doing so well, may he be well, immediately I come out of my ego prison. So that's the beauty, that it's a win-win situation for both. So since we are all one ultimately, if I'm rejecting a person, I'm actually rejecting a part of myself. So we know that in our relations there is so much to do, so many people that we hate, we reject, we don't feel good about. So all that work is within us to be done, slowly through countless number of efforts. Yeah. So in spite of their bitter suffering, and I think this is something that Mother shares, again, reflecting upon the previous sentence, all who are in contact with us may awaken to the full knowledge of thy divine presence. So Mother again and again, shares something on being like a flower, having a life which is like a blossoming of a flower. And if we actually connect within, and if we keep on doing this continuing inner work, blossoming like a flower, I think the beauty and fragrance of it compels others to walk the path. That they also see that yes, it is possible to have more beauty and more sorting and having a simple life. So if others can do it, I can also walk on the path. So if I make my life beautiful, it's actually a kind of a social service that I'm doing, because it gives us inspiration, like lives of masters and mystics gives us inspiration, and each one of us can give each other inspiration by side effect. Not that I want to give inspiration, but it's by side effect that the more work we do, continue to do within ourselves, we become like a flower, so that whoever touches your presence, he is also compelled to do the work, put the effort, and walk the path. So people who are suffering in their bitter suffering may feel dawning in it a sublime consolation of thy light and love, and the marvelous comfort of thy peace. So we all suffer, each one of us suffers. And I think suffering is not the issue. The problem is how to suffer well. Suffering is there at the moment, collectively suffering is there, but how to suffer well, how to make use of my suffering. So now when I am suffering, can I make it into a prayer? Like Mother does in her prayers again and again. She says that all those who are suffering, may they be relieved of the suffering. May they commune with thee. So then the moment I get in touch with my own suffering, owing to clinging of thoughts, maybe some relationship issues, work issues, anything can become an issue. The moment I recognize that suffering, can I inhale each one of us on this planet, and beyond, who is suffering like me? I inhale that suffering and I exhale wellness, contentment, and progress out. And the moment I do it, my own suffering also vanishes to a large extent. The egoistic personal suffering vanishes. So I think we have to slowly learn, just like we learn how to love. I think we also have to learn to how to suffer well, so that it is made used of. And then it's not really something where you want to run away from suffering, because you are making good use of it. Just like we make compost out of these vegetable peels and all that. So yes, there. And yeah, I think this was the line where you, Chitraji and Till was touching upon. I implore that every substance impregnated more and more by thy sovereign forces may put up an ever diminishing resistance. So why we suffer is that we resist. We resist the flow of life. If a divorce has happened, what do I say? Oh my God, how could that happen to me? So I immediately build a resistance to it. So the universe has already said yes to it. The consciousness has already said yes to it. It has been allowed. But the ego says, how can this happen? And immediately a wall of resistance is built up. And it creates more and more misery for me. I keep on struggling against the forces of life to make things happen. And we suffer in that process. And also resistance is of another kind, that as Jishnuji was also sharing, that we love our suffering. We become so comfortable in our suffering because it gives ego another name, that look how much I am suffering. So the I does not die really. Either in pride or in suffering, the I remains. So the catch is that Mother also says that the more I am suffering, the more we suffer. Definitely it's a play of ego. So more suffering, high ego, more ego. And the more simpler and lighter you feel, in those states I can be kind of relatively see that the ego is not really playing heavy in my life, that it leads to simple and uncomplicated life. So the blind ignorance against thee, ignorance by its very name refers to ignoring something. So imagine that you come into a room and there is this maybe a deity, kind of a wall mural, or maybe a picture or a stone painting or something of a deity, god or somebody. And I come into that room and I am absorbed in everything else, but I ignore the presence of the deity. So it's not that the presence is not there, but I ignore it. So it's not that the divine is not there. The divine consciousness is the one which is making me speak. The divine consciousness is the one which makes me think, which makes me intellectualize, or makes me, feel or touch anything. Behind everything, there is divine consciousness, but it is so present that I miss it. It is so present that I ignore it. Just like when we walk into somebody's newly built home, all that we admire is, wow, what furniture, what a kitchen, what a beautiful wall, for example. But we miss commenting on the space because it's very obvious that space is there. So just like that, we keep on missing the very obvious, which is divine consciousness. And this is our blind ignorance, that how can you miss the space? How can you not see the space? So this, she's, I think, to what it appears to me is that she's imploring that each substance may be impregnated full of your forces and may put up an ever diminishing resistance, that the resistance may gradually keep on decreasing and decreasing to the universal law and to divine presence. That now I don't ignore the divine presence, that now I don't resist the divine presence being in love with my suffering and ego. So that's what it appears to me, that she's kind of praying that may that resistance, which is the cause of all suffering, may that resistance of heavy ignorance, which is there owing to which we are not able to see, may it diminish gradually in its degree. And so that there is a triumph over all darkness, because when I get in touch with my true nature, even for a minute, I'm not suffering anymore. I'm in light. There is no darkness in that moment. The darkness may come again the moment I get identified with my own thought patterns, emotional patterns, and my story. But I have again and again a free will to get in touch with my true consciousness, to identify as consciousness rather than the content of consciousness. So this free will is there with me each moment. Yeah, and I think rest of us have already reflected all the parts else.
Yes, Monica, now it is clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said, yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay, so anything in this, any more reflection on this, or shall we move on to the next one? So I'll move in that case. So this is the next prayer for today, February 9, 1914. So anyone who wants to go first, please feel free to read it and then share your reflection.
Can I just read it, Monica? I'll see reflection later.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Please, please.
February 9, 1914. Whatever names may be given to thee, O Lord, by the elite of humanity, athirst for something absolute, it seeks ardently for thee. Even those who seem to move farthest away from thee, even those who are exclusively occupied with themselves, are they not searching for an absolute in sensation, an absolute in satisfaction, and in spite of its vanity, that search also can someday lead to thee. Thou art far too much at the core, at the heart of all things, for even the very worst egoism not to be transformed by thee into aspirations. The only thing we must fear and avoid is the inertia of inconscience, of blind and heavy ignorance. That state lies at the very bottom of the infinite ladder that rises towards thee. And all thy effort consists in pulling matter out of this primeval darkness so as to awaken it to consciousness. Even passion is preferable to inconscience. We must therefore go constantly forward to conquer that universal bedrock of inconscience and through our own organism transform it gradually into luminous consciousness. O Lord, sweet Master of love, thou whom I see so living, so conscious within all things, I adore thee with a boundless devotion.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so please feel free, anyone who wants to go next, anything coming up to you on this prayer, any personal reflections or any few lines that resonated more strongly.
I'll go, Monica.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. This prayer again, you previously you underlined with red thing, no? Even those who seem to move furthest away from thee, even those who are exclusively occupied with themselves, are they not searching for an absolute in sensation? It shattered each and every idea and notion of actually, yeah, having, because they are seekers, they are followers, they are not followers, they are materialist, nothing is there, no, everything is shattered now. And absolute in satisfaction, and in spite of its vanity, that search also can someday lead to the, yes, if we This one, yeah, really, this made me think actually, I should always remember this and move forward the path. That's all I can say actually. That only came to me. Not to, I mean, previous prayer very beautifully explained. If you change yourself, it will automatically influence others also and change the circumstances also. So in both ways, we need not bother. I mean, if we, as you said, if we follow our path sincerely and if we are very truthful to that thing, yeah, we need not worry about all these things. Because in one of Alok Pandey's talk, I heard Mother once said, it seems, even American youths extravagancy also allowed, it seems, actually. So I heard that from Alok Das talk. If it is the case, then we need not worry or comment upon others also. That I felt from this prayer. And Mother again insisted upon that. No, the only thing we must fear and avoid is the inertia of inconscience. Yes, she always said about this, so many prayers also, of blind and heavy ignorance. But there are some beautiful lines in Savitri, book 2, Travelers of the World, how they conquered that inconscience. I will read those lines. It's a very beautiful line, actually. Yeah. I'll bring those lines 1 second. Today only I was reading those lines beautifully. Then I want to share with this prayer. Falsehood gave back to truth her tortured shape. This is from page number 232. Annulled were the tables of the law of pain, and in their place grew luminous characters. The skillful penman's unseen finger wrote his swift, intuitive calligraphy. Earth's forms were made his divine documents. The wisdom embodied mind could not reveal. Inconscience chased from the world's voiceless breast. This thing actually, Ashwapati, he traveled all the worlds, including the world of falsehood and also darkness, descent into night. Everything happened. After that, Sri Aurobindo brought this thing actually, inconscience, chased from the world's voiceless breast. So, and also in the flowers and significance, in that book also, Mother gave 3 flowers regarding the inconscience, driving of inconscience. She gave the name for that, divine will acting in the inconscient, one of the flower. Another flower, first appearance of purity in the inconscient. Next flower is first response of the inconscient to the divine force. So much of importance, yeah, to drive away the inconscience. Yes. That state lies at the very bottom of the infinite ladder that rises towards thee, and all the effort consistent. This is before she met Sri Aurobindo, no? Before their mission started in the earth. After that, that inconscience is touched by mothers and Sri Aurobindo's by force. Through their force, it was touched. And all the effort consists in pulling matter out of this primeval darkness so as to awaken it to consciousness. Yes, it is their mission. Yes. Even passion is preferable to inconscience. This is what Mother said. Even American youth's extravagance is allowed instead of that tamas. We must therefore go constantly forward to conquer that universal bedrock of inconscience, and through our own organism transform it gradually into luminous consciousness. Yes, they have done it, no? Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Yes. And last line, as usual, very beautiful. O Lord, sweet Master of love, thou whom I see so living, so conscious within all things, I adore thee with a boundless devotion. Yes, this should be our constant prayer always. This is my thing, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing up those lines also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is very relevant also, very, very important. All the effort consists in pulling matter out of this primeval darkness. I think this is also specifically Mother and Sri Aurobindo again and again stressing upon that we don't have to leave material existence in darkness. It can become conscious of its divine origin. So that's the beauty and that's the effort we have to put. So yes, yeah. Please, anyone who wants to share next? Yes, Lotus. Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
My French seems to be lacking at times. Inconscience, I tried to find it on the internet, the definition of it, and could not find, and the closest I could get to it was a translation from French into English, and it talks about unconscious. Now, is that the word for inconscience, or how would you define it?
Yeah, I think it would be very nice if you go into words by Sri Aurobindo himself where he describes this, or maybe Jishnuji would like to add on something on this. Sri Aurobindo and Mother both have really talked in detail about, because one can get in confusion again and again of what is subconscious, what is unconscious, and what is inconscience. So it would be nice, worthy going into the words themselves. But if anyone has anything to share, please do add. Jishnuji, would you like to add on anything here? If you have read anything from the Mother or Sri Aurobindo?
Here, adding on to adding what she said, one thing I really liked is even those who move farthest away from them, even those who are exclusively occupied with themselves. So it is like Mother told someone that everybody is progressing. I think there was a conversation between Sri Aurobindo and Niradbaran, and Niradbaran said, everybody is doing yoga. Even that cat is doing yoga, he asked. And Sri Aurobindo said, everyone is doing yoga. Even that cat is doing some yoga. And that is exactly what Mother is saying here, that in spite of its vanity, that search also can someday lead to thee. Thou art far too much at core, at the heart of all things, for even the worst egoism not to be transformed by thee into aspirations. And this here, the next sentence, the only thing we must fear and avoid is the inertia of inconscience, of blind and heavy ignorance. And if we remember like the world stare, that line of world stare of Savitri, or in various places Sri Aurobindo is saying, it's like this world from dense to subtle, from matter to spirit, it's like a spectrum. And as if that is what Mother is writing here, this state, that is this state of blind and heavy ignorance, that state lies at the bottom of the infinite ladder that rises towards thee. It's like an infinite ladder, and that state of ignorance and inconscience is at the bottom. And all thy effort consists in pulling matter out of this darkness so as to awaken it to consciousness. And that is the secret of this entire yoga, that to make matter conscious. Whatever we are seeing in today's world, like the smart technology, the movement towards this, towards nature, all this is the movement of or matter becoming more and more conscious. Or these are the impacts, current of what we are saying. The matter is becoming conscious, and that is what Mother is saying. From complete inconscient, bring it out of darkness, awaken it to consciousness. Even passion is preferable to inconscience. And this is a very, very strong line. And it reminded me, Sri Aurobindo, I forgot where, Sri Aurobindo at one place wrote that for the development of a country, in some part, for the growth of a country, or for some part of society, at times atheism is more important than faith to bring the country or the society out of this torpor. And here Mother is saying even passion is preferable to inconscience. There is an anecdote which I remembered of Swami Vivekananda. So he had either a cousin or a childhood friend when he was known as Vivekananda. So this friend was like he had not much ambition, nothing, not, I mean, he was like quite an inert person. And he asked Vivekananda that, "You tell me something, how I can improve myself, what I can do." Then this Vivekananda told him, on friendly terms, of course, he said that you have become inert. There has to be some raja gun in you. There has to be some movement in you. First, you do bad thing. Once you start doing bad thing, you will come out of this state of inconscience, and there will be some movement in you. And then you come to me. Then you will be capable of doing good thing. And that is what Mandir is saying. Even passion is preferable to inconscience. And what she means is that there is some movement which can be channelized for good. We must therefore go constantly forward to conquer that universal bedrock of inconscience. That is, if we think of the Earth's past, we don't have to think so much. If we think of the Earth's past, what it was, just molten lava, and then it became just a landmass, nothing is there. So that is the inconscience. Versus what we see now, the verdant lands, flowers. We must therefore move constantly forward to conquer that universal bedrock of inconscience, and through our own organism, that is through our own effort, transform it gradually into a luminous consciousness. Here, in this prayer, what I really liked is the first line, that whatever names may be given to thee, O Lord, by the elite of humanity, a thirst for something absolute, it seeks ardently for thee. So basically what Mandir is saying, that in whichever name, whichever manner, whichever way we want to call you, there, in whatever effort, whatever path, actually it is an aspiration which is leading towards the divine. That is how I felt at the first line is, and it reminded me of the first chapter of Life Divine by Sri Aurobindo, where he is seeing the human aspiration, that over ages, over lifetime, the human aspiration has been the same. It wanted in different ways to transcend itself. It may have given different names, it may have taken different avenues, but through different ways, the human aspiration wanted itself to be independent. That is, the human beings wanted to be independent, better, and transcend from their existing state. This is what I felt of this prayer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jishnuji. I'm pasting in the chat window something on the inconscient by the
Monica,
yes.
I wanted to share something about inconscience.
Yeah, do please do.
Yeah, to reply on Lotus' question. So if I don't know how much you're familiar with the terminology of Sri Aurobindo, but I will try to put it in a very simple way. So then there is two movements of the divine force. One is involution and another is evolution. So when involution happens, a descent of the divine force happens to its what Mother calls it bedrock of inconscience. So what happens is the force or divine creation wants to descend, no? So that descent happens, and this is called involution. From the higher planes, it goes to the our material planes and the lower. So then the evolution process starts. So from there, from inconscience, the consciousness which is embedded in it, start rising again back to Satchitananda, higher planes. So that's what we are all as souls are involved in this movement of evolution, rising back and returning to our source, to the divine creator. So what happens, the unconscious is, as Rabinda is saying, it is a consciousness descends from the supreme and the higher to the lower levels. It loses progressively its force and intensity till it reaches the nadir of inconscience. Nadir is complete, what do you say, peak of the inconscience. So as if nothing is there, as if nothing can be felt, no consciousness. But I remember, I think in one of the mother's experiences, where in agenda she was speaking, she discovered over there in the bedrock of unconscious the light, that sleeping Agni, that being which was there in sleeping in the inconscience, and then she tried to waken that being. And I think Huta painted very beautifully. And even the pretty ghosh is there in dining room. If you go see upstairs, there is that sleeping kind of a being in the cave. In the Rig Veda, they're also saying about that. So that is the being, that is divine presence, which is inconscient, hidden. So from there, the movement of returning starts. That is the evolution movement, which we are all part of it. I don't know how much I could explain to what is inconscience, and from there that it's a gradation of consciousness, basically. From inconscience goes to subconscious, from subconscious goes to matter, and from matter go to vital, from vital to mental, and from mental goes to higher over mental and supramental plane. So that's what I can say about inconscient.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Luba. Yeah, thank you so much. I've also put a link in the chat window for those of us who would be interested. They can go through that link also on Inconscient.
And I have one Savitri dictionary, Monica. In that it is written, inconscient, always rare in popular usage. It is usually taken to mean unconscious, but Sri Aurobindo's use of it typically refers to that which has lapsed from consciousness into a nethermost, N-E-T-H-E-R, nethermost, self-oblivious or self-absorbed swoon or trance. Self-oblivious or self-absorbed swoon or trance. S-W-O-O-N, swoon. Self-absorbed swoon or trance, it seems.
Okay, I'll put that also in the WhatsApp group. Yeah. Yes.
It is in the dictionary, Savitri dictionary. Yeah.
Okay, great. So anyone else who wants to share anything on this prayer before I go? Okay, so I'm assuming there is no reflection at the moment and taking the liberty to go ahead. I'll just go through, kind of cruise over it again and pick up something that comes to me. Whatever names may be given to thee, O Lord, by the elite of humanity, a thirst for something absolute, it seeks ardently for thee. I think Jishnuji was sharing, and also in the Life Divine Mother's commentaries on Life Divine, also Mother shares that only human being has this capacity to self-exceed, to be a better and better and better version of ourselves. And that's why this thirst, if it can be there, this aspiration to be a better and better version of oneself can be there. I think it's an aim good enough for a lifetime and can keep us employed. Even those, I think some of you were reflecting upon it. Chitraji said that it changed her view of how she saw things. Even those who seem to move farthest away from thee, even those who are exclusively occupied with themselves, people we see, we see people who are so narcissistic and self-absorbed. Even some of us have been there. Are they not searching for an absolute in sensation? Imagine we talk about sensual pleasures. What are we seeking there? If I touch somebody and if I'm seeking to reproduce something that I feel again and again through touching someone, am I not finding or yearning for something which absolute that can be given to me through that sensual, pleasure or anything? But the point is that we never reach that absolute through senses. That's our catch. So if I keep on living as the egoistic consciousness, which I do from a sense of lack, a sense of incompletion, then I strive that, oh my God, maybe some sense perception will complete me. Maybe if I give myself enough to drugs, that may complete me. If I give myself enough to, cigarettes, or maybe all, thought addiction, emotion addiction, addiction of relationships. But we see that nothing completes us. So we are not able to reach that absolute, although we are striving to. So I think this is what Mother is referring to. And also we talk about Tamasik, Rajasic and Sattvic ego. So Tamasik ego is an ego full of inertia, that I know that I am, I see myself as a person. And I don't want to move much. I think Jishnuji was sharing, from my comfort zones. I'm okay as I am. I don't want to change much, move much. Now, much better than this is that you come to the Rajasic state of passions, ambitions, greed. That is much better. Why? Because at least it makes you move. So if I am greedy about name and fame, I will put effort. But if I am very comfortable being whatever ugly or beautiful person I am, if I become too comfortable and self-satisfied, then I'll fall into this comfort zone, tamas or inertia. And there is no progress. So that's what Mother is warning us against. That don't fall into that space of self-satisfaction, that I'm good enough, let others fix their own lives now. And then you maybe develop a pleasure for something, or maybe fall in love with some person, or develop a passion, hobby, some kind of ambition, some greed moves you, so you put effort. So that's much better than being in the tamasic state, the inertia state. And then the beauty is that the further I go in my ambition, I will realize someday that it's not fulfilling me, because all that I want is fulfillment. If I have a relationship and I see that running after a person does not fulfill me, it will make me suffer. And through my suffering, when it reaches an intensity, I will realize that all I want is fulfillment, but running after this person does not make me fulfilled. So what do I do? What do I do? So this seeking for contentment, seeking for something absolute is a driving force. And that leads to, this shedding off of the layers of ignorance, and so that our own divine truth is kind of revealed to us. And that's why we talk about self-realization. So it's not that something is not already there, but I realize now that, oh my God, I'm already fulfilled. I'm already complete as I am. But yes, there is a lot of work to be done in the outer personality, the mental, vital, the physical. There is a lot of work to be done there. So this movement of the ego from tamasic state, inertia state, to a rajasic state full of passions, ambitions, and then ultimately to a sattvic state, where we realize that yes, there is an incompletion, but the incompletion can only be fulfilled by devotion to a master or a guru, or listening to words full of illumination. So it becomes more receptive, it becomes more porous, sattvic ego. And then we know masters have said that even the sattvic ego is an ego. It's a limitation, it's a foundation. That also is the last step of the ladder, which has to be let go of. So I don't have to take the ladder to the terrace. Once I reach the terrace, which is a long way, I can leave the sattvic ego also there, beneath it. So such is the movement, and we keep on falling from one egoistic state to another one. It's not that if I am a sattvic person more, then I'm always a sattvic person. I'm sometimes a tamasic, and I'm sometimes even rajasic, full of ambition, greed, or lust, or desire, or something. So this is really beautiful, that if we move, the movement is necessary. Even if I move into a wrong direction, one day I will realize that all I want is fulfillment, and I'm not getting it there. So let me kind of really get it, get at it. Thou art far too much at the core, at the heart of all things. In Buddhism, people talk about wisdom of the inner heart, opening of the heart. So the more intense pain I have in the front part of my heart, which is the seat of emotions, the more intense pain and shattering I go through, it can actually open me up to the inner part of the heart, which is the psychic part, the psychic essence, which is full of love. So he says, Mother says here, at the heart of all things. So we don't have to run away from anything. The moment I go close to anything which is appearing ugly, I can see the divine face even there, but we don't go close. And if I have not yet found the divine face there, then it just has to tell me that I have just not gotten close enough. I have to move further closer, so that ultimately it is revealed. I think Luba was pointing that the characteristics of inconscient. So the more you go within the darkness, you see that the divine is there. It's not really dark as it appears to be. So even the worst egoisms not to be transformed by thee into aspiration. So worst, Angulimal example. Angulimal, the Daku, who would kill every, people and cut their fingers and kind of put a kind of a necklace of fingers around his neck. So he saw Buddha walking into a forest, and he says, Rukja, he says that just stop right there wherever you are to the Buddha. And Buddha says, I have stopped, but when will you stop? And this is the first time he's hearing something such words full of wisdom from someone. And he immediately asks, who are you? To the Buddha, who are you? And he becomes his disciple. So after many, many sins that he committed, he becomes a disciple, and ultimately he transforms himself. So worst of egoisms, not to be transformed by thee into aspirations. The only thing we must fear and avoid is the inertia of the inconscience, of blind and heavy ignorance, not to be conscious of our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations, what is happening inside me, to continually keep a check, whatever movements are happening within me. That state lies at the very bottom of the infinite ladder that rises towards thee. I think Luba already touched upon this infinite ladder, and all thy effort consists in pulling matter out of this. So what is the divine putting effort? Divine is putting effort into that may all the inconscient of the matter, it may turn into divine conscience, and radiance. All thy effort consists in pulling matter, which is the most dark, out of this primeval darkness, so as to awaken it to consciousness. And Mother has talked so much on transformation of cells, physical cells. But it cannot be done if I have not transformed already or parallelly my thoughts, my emotions, my sense perceptions. I cannot imagine transformation of matter just by having all the ugliness inside me, and now I am beginning to work on matter also to inject faith. That is almost impossible. So all this work is very integral. It has to work in parallel: thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, and the injection of divinity and faith in the cells also, and to awaken them to their divine potential. Even passion is preferable to inconscious. I think we already touched upon that. We must therefore go constantly forward. Whatever comes on the way on life, take it as a raw material for progress. Nothing is happening which should not have happened. Everything is happening for a reason. So even if I have fallen into a passion and now suffering, it has happened for a reason. So can I learn from my suffering? Can I suffer well? We must therefore go constantly forward to conquer that universal bedrock of inconscience, and through our own organism, transform it gradually into luminous consciousness. So, luminosity of consciousness. There is something in Tibetan texts which I want to share, and then after that I'll stop. So there is an idea of mother luminosity and child luminosity. And they say that when you leave the body, the child luminosity rushes and moves into mother luminosity. So it's like, imagine that you are one drop of light, as right now we know ourselves as one drop of light, owing to our heavy ignorance that we can't see the full radiance of sun that we are. So when the body withers away, the body falls away, we actually are the sun that we are, because the ignorance is not there. In the body withers away, the heaviness of the body withers away, and the true self in its full luminosity shines bright as the sun. Now, if I am already not in touch with a bit of light within me, and know the supermind or the divine as the sunlight, as the light full of blazing suns, 100 of suns, then when the body withers away, I'm leaving the body, it's very, very hard to rush towards the mother. If a child recognizes the mother, then he will already automatically rush towards the mother, that okay, I am little light and that big light is my mother luminosity. But when I have no touch in my deepest contemplations with this knowing within, the consciousness aspect within, then when the body falls away, the child is not able to recognize the mother luminosity as his own mother. He becomes very scared of the bright light. So it almost one falls into an unconscious state. one is not able to recognize the bright light as one's own being, one's own mother consciousness. So they stress upon, Tibetan Buddhist practitioners, they stress upon knowing more and more this divine consciousness while we are alive, so that when the body is gone, we are not afraid of our own true self. We are able to stand the blazing light and the radiance, luminosity of the consciousness, which is self-illuminating. Sun does not need any other light. We need sunlight. So that self-illuminating light is the divine light. It knows by its own presence. So if I am not, while alive, if I am not in touch with that presence, then even through the death, the process becomes a bit kind of tedious. And they also suggest that people who are leaving the body to just follow the light, go towards the light, or maybe cling to your object of devotion. So maybe somebody wants to cling to the mother, maybe Sri Aurobindo or Ramakrishna Paramhansa, whoever is your object of devotion, because there are realms in between where you can, kind of go here and there, and why to make the process unnecessarily tedious for oneself. So there's absolutely, so much wisdom given in Tibetan traditions on the process of how to die well, actually. And for dying well, we have to live well. Otherwise, it cannot happen just by a click of a finger. So while we are alive, while we have the body, making full use of it, sitting in our contemplations and also in our work, knowing ourselves as that conscious presence behind every thought, feeling, and sense perception. Identification with that consciousness. I think that's something which we can do again and again. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to share. Anyone else? Anything to add on? Anything more to reflect upon? Okay, so I think, there are no further reflections. So in that case, thank you everyone for joining in, for listening so peacefully, and also for sharing beautiful reflections. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.